Washington, D.C., the capital of the USA. Global decisions are made here. The White House, the Capitol building, the Pentagon. You can often see all of these main attractions in many films and news. In this video, we will tell you how to get there, about our itinerary by the most significant sites of the city, interesting facts, and also about our incident with the police near the Pentagon and what is not allowed to do there. So, let's get started! It is possible to get to Washington by plane. There is an international airport in the city. Take a bus tour from another city, or come by the rental car, by bus, or by train. For example, we arrived in Washington from New York by bus. Washington is located 4-hour drive from New York. We bought bus tickets online. The price for return tickets per 2 persons was about $100. Intercity bus connection is very well developed in the USA. The buses are comfortable, double-decker, with air conditioning. Our trip to Washington was planned for 2 days. We left New York in the morning, arrived in Washington already by lunch, and returned back to New York the next day in the evening. So here is Washington. Its official name is the District of Columbia, abbreviated DC. The District of Columbia is an independent territory and doesn't belong to any state. There are Washington State on the western side of the USA and Washington City, which is the capital of the USA, on the eastern side of USA. In order not to confuse the city with the state, Americans usually call the city DC or Washington DC. Washington DC was founded in 1791 and named after George Washington, the first American president. The city is located on the northern bank of the Potomac River, between the states of Virginia and Maryland. There are the main offices of all 3 federal government branches, including the residence of the United States President in the White House, and many monuments and museums of national importance in Washington. The most famous attractions are located in the historic district of the city, Capitol Hill. All the sites are relatively close to each other, including the bus station, where we arrived. We explored the city and its main sites on foot, but we saw a lot of people riding electric scooters. It is also comfortable to discover Washington by rental bike. The bike rental system is very convenient and automated. A bicycle can be taken at one point and left at another. A subway operates in Washington and its suburbs in Maryland and Virginia states. By the way, the Washington subway is the second busiest in the United States after the New York subway. When we came into the historic district of Washington, Capitol Hill, it turned out that everyone except tourists wears business suits. Everything seems to be like in films, and we must say this makes a special vibe. Sometimes we even felt uncomfortable that we didn't correspond that business dress code. It seemed like only government employees live in Washington. It impressed us so much. Talking about look, Washington is very different from New York, where they mostly don't pay much attention to their style. There are mostly low-rise cozy houses with landscaping on the streets of historical district in Washington. National Mall is an open 1-mile-long park area, the center of the city, and the location of many historical monuments like the Capitol building, Washington Monument, and most of the museums. One of the most recognizable, grandiose, and impressive sights of the city, the Capitol building, probably the most famous symbol of democracy in the world. Since 1800, meetings of the US Congress have been held here. Congress is developing the country's national legislation in the Capitol. The inauguration ceremonies of US presidents are also held here. George Washington, the first president of the United States, laid the first stone in the base of the Capitol building on the 18th September in 1793. You can get into the Capitol building for a free excursion, but you need to book it on the official website online in advance. There are a lot of squirrels in the park around the Capitol building. They are like a separate attraction of the city. Squirrels are very beautiful and go into hands if they see something tasty. We gave them some nuts. Birds also didn't get confused and had lunch with squirrels. Library of Congress is located behind the Capitol building on Independence Avenue and claims to be the largest library in the world. This library was founded for the needs of Congress in 1800, and already in 1870 it became the place of storage of any book published in the USA. In total, the library contains more than 37 million books from all over the world in 450 languages. There are the buildings of the United States National Archives along the National Mall. National Archives Research Center stores thousands of the most important documents from American history, such as the Declaration of Independence, the Constitution, and the Bill of Rights. There is a Washington Monument in the center of the National Mall, between the Capitol building and the Memorial to Abraham Lincoln. This monument is dedicated to the first President of the United States, George Washington. Its height is 169 meters or 555 feet. Before the construction of the Eiffel Tower, this monument was the tallest construction in the world. There is no Ferris wheel in Washington, but it's possible to climb to the top of the monument, by the way, almost for free, and see the city in all its beauty from above. There are two variants to climb the monument, by elevator or by stairs with 896 steps. In order to do that, it's necessary to book a specific time slot on the official website in advance. There are also some museums of the Smithsonian Institution along the National Mall. Smithsonian Institution is a research and education center established by Congress in 1846. There are many popular museums and galleries in Washington. For example, such national museums like Museum of American History, Museum of Natural History, Museum of the American Indian, National Air and Space Museum, and many others. In our opinion, the most interesting museum in Washington is the National Air and Space Museum. So we decided to visit exactly this museum. We will tell you about this museum in detail in our next video. The Smithsonian Institution building itself is also located on the National Mall. The White House, the official residence of the United States President, one of the most famous buildings in the world. It was in our list of must-see places in this city. Frankly speaking, it was even one of our main goals for a trip to Washington. You can often see the White House in news and films. It is really very impressive and legendary. Of course, there are always a lot of visitors here who want to capture themselves in front of such an important and epic residence. And there are a lot of security guards near the White House as well, who guarantee the safety of the president and his family. The White House was designed by Irish architect James Hoban in the neoclassical style, and the construction lasted 8 years, from 1792 to 1800. At the time the White House was completed, the 1st of November 1800, the first president who occupied the house was John Adams. The White House was the official residence of all United States presidents, except George Washington, who held this position from 1789 to 1797. Consequently, the White House didn't function yet at that time. The name White House became public only in 1901 by order of Theodore Roosevelt. The phrase White House is used in the journalistic language as a synonym for the presidential administration. Visitors who come to the White House on an excursion can see the most beautiful historical rooms that are used by the President and the First Lady to welcome guests from other countries. It is really amazing to visit the house where the President of the United States signs bills and government orders, meets with his employees, visitors, and guests. An interesting fact that the White House is imaged on the $20 banknote. The Abraham Lincoln Memorial is another iconic landmark in Washington. It was built in honor of the 16th President of the United States, the liberator of Americans from slavery, the national hero of the American people, Abraham Lincoln. His presidency fell on the years of the Civil War, 1861-1865. Abraham Lincoln was an outstanding speaker. His speeches have been inspirational and are still a cultural heritage. The memorial, built during 1914-1922, symbolizes Lincoln's belief that all people should be free. At the center of the memorial is a Lincoln statue, about 6 meters or 19 feet high. Just above it on the wall are written the following words: "In this temple, as in the hearts of the people from whom he saves the Union, the memory of Abraham Lincoln is enshrined forever." Near the Abraham Lincoln Memorial, there are also 2 huge stone slabs with engraved text of Lincoln's speeches. These 2 stone slabs symbolize the principles of freedom, justice, unity, brotherhood, and charity. Sense of heroism, honor, and freedom are there in the air. The memorial is open all the time. The entrance is free. There are always a lot of visitors, guided tours. Ducks with little ducklings swim in the pond in front of the Abraham Lincoln Memorial. It's amazing. Between the Washington Monument and the Abraham Lincoln Memorial, a World War II National Memorial, a Korean War Veterans Memorial, and a Vietnam Veterans Memorial. The Pentagon, a grandiose construction of the USA, a strong core that ensures the security of the whole country. This is where the United States Department of Defense headquarters is located. From one word, Pentagon, comes an association with something inaccessible and completely secret. The Pentagon comes from Greek and means a figure with 5 angles. Pentagon was built in January 1943. Today, the Pentagon is the largest office building in the world. If you add up the lengths of all the corridors of the Pentagon, you get about 28 kilometers. But at the same time, the building was built in such a way that from the farthest corner to the opposite, along by the shortest path, you can get in just 7 minutes. It is possible to get to the Pentagon on an excursion, but you need to book it on the official website in advance. Cadets conduct such tours inside the building. There is a shopping center with many cafes and shops on the territory of Pentagon. The 9/11 Memorial was opened on the Pentagon opposite the place where on the 11th September 2001 the terrorist attack happened, a plane collision with a building. The memorial is dedicated to the Pentagon employees and passengers of the plane, 184 men and women who didn't survive during the attack. The memorial was created in the form of a park with 184 named benches facing the building. As it turned out, it is allowed to take the photos of the Pentagon only from the site of the memorial. And we didn't know about it. We were so inspired by the grandiose Pentagon building and didn't see anything except it. So we tried to take a photo of the building from the other side. For that, we got a remark from the police. They turned on the siren in their police car. And then we noticed the corresponding warning sign which forbade taking photos. Frankly speaking, the level of our adrenaline ran high at that moment. We apologized, hid the camera away, and continued our walk through the city. The best view of the Pentagon from above opens from an observation deck on the territory of the United States Air Force Memorial. It seems like we managed to see all the most significant sites in Washington in 2 days. But even if we had the whole week, we would definitely find how to spend our time there. In particular, it would be interesting to go on excursions inside the Capitol building, the White House, and the Pentagon, as well as visit the business quarter of the city with its skyscrapers, and look at the city from a different perspective. In general, we had a pleasant impression of Washington. In our opinion, it organically combines the United States power in form of the White House, the Pentagon, and the Capitol with the educational core in the form of museums and historical monuments. The city looks thoroughly designed and a little bit artificial, but it is very interesting and comfortable there. What is your impression of the city? Leave a comment. More about Washington and its sites you can read on our website worldwithatwist.com and our Instagram, links in the description below. As we have already mentioned, in our next video, we will tell you about the most interesting in National Air and Space Museum in Washington, about unusual space souvenirs which we bought and which impossible to find somewhere else. And we will show you our International Space Station module, which we designed by ourselves. So if you don't want to miss it, subscribe and click on the bell button to be immediately informed about the new video on our channel. Don't forget to click the sub button, comment, share the video if you like it, and again, subscribe to our channel if you want to get such short and informative overviews about interesting places of our planet. World with a Twist. Let's discover the world together.